matches here in Seoul, South Korea. This is for WCS Korea, and we're going to find out who's going to that Premier League today.
Yeah, as we already said in the past, we have the up and downs coming up right now. So if you're one of those players in the Challenger League who lost in the second or in the third round, you get another chance to go straight to the Premier League, and this is exactly why we're here today. We have our first 5-player group. We have 6 groups in total, and today is the first one. We're going to find out who will be able to clinch out one of those spots and go to the Premier League for the next season.
Yeah, so we've got 12 players getting out of this out of 30, so almost a third of them, of course, but 2 out of 5 is, I guess, the best way to put it. 2 out of every group of 5 players will be advancing, and the rest are going to have to go back to that Challenger League where they may be eliminated from the tournament entirely.
Exactly, and we have a pretty sick lineup in general for the up and downs. We had so many really great players losing their match in the second or the third round of the Challenger League, and now we have our first 5 today. We're actually looking at a lineup where YoDa is playing. We have SonGDuri, we have Super, Savage, and Flying. So a lot of Protoss players in today's group, and most of them really heavy hitters that were able to make quite the impression in the Challenger League. With YoDa, of course, we have someone who already all-killed in the GSTL. He had a great run against Zubu especially, but then he lost against True, was taken out. Actually, I don't know if it was True. I think True was playing against the Protoss players, but yeah, he lost to a Zerg player.
Yeah, here's our distribution of the races in Code S currently. 9 Terrans, 6 Prosses, and 5 Zergs. So the Zergs and Pross definitely the lowest ones, but there's a lot of them in the up and downs for that reason.
And just look at the lineup that we have here. I mean, we have Innovation in here, we have Flash, we have Soulkey, we have all of them. This is going to be amazing, and I'm so looking forward to it.
It's just going to be a great season. And of course, here are the up and down race distributions. You can see Terran making up the least since they made up the most in the Premier League. 11 Prosses and 12 Zergs.
Yeah. We're talking about how amazing the lineup for the next season of Codesses of the Premier League. But just look at the up and downs here. This is just such a sick lineup. We have Marine King in here, Fantasy Keen, we have Jakji, we have Squirtle who has to fight his way through the up and downs, as well as players like Life, DRG, Su, Lino, Kangho, Roro. So many former champions, so many amazing players that will try to get their spots for the Premier League in Season 3.
Yeah, here's our schedule. You can see the group. We'll talk a little bit about today's group a little bit later, but Group B has the players like Life, Hero, and Björn. C has Keen, you've got Avenge, and Pig Baby in there, not to mention Lenok and Ruin. Group D's got Squirtle, DRG, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Trap, and also Fantasy.
That might actually be my favorite group.
Yeah, that's what everybody's talking about right now. Group D literally being the group of death in some ways. Group E having Curious, Swagger, Marine King, Roro, and Deer. And Group F finally having Kangho, Jakji, Shine, Effort, Hurricane. Oh my god.
All of those groups are simply amazing. You always have at least 2 really heavy hitters in the groups. But the up and downs, that's where teams are dying. That's where we have so many stories made in the past. As you can see, today's group, we have YoDa, we have SonGDuri, Super, Savage, and Flying. We have 2 Protoss, 2 Zerg, and 1 Terran player.
Yeah, and as you can see, the 3 at the top left coming from the Challenger League on their way up. The ones at the bottom right, Savage and Flying, fell out of Code S, tried to make it back into Code S through the Challenger League, but in the end failed, and now that's why they're in the up and downs. You can see it, so many of these players showing how many games they've played here in this studio. It's kind of you can see some of the older players, some of the ESL players have a lot more experience than the Kespo players. Flying being the one of the Kespos with the most experience here.
Yeah, one of the players that I'm really excited for is actually SonGDuri. He lost against Lenok in the second round of the Challenger League, but he was successful in the first round against SC. He took the Terran player down with a 2-0, which was actually quite impressive if you think about how well SC played in the GSTL. In the Premier League, not really making that showing that we kind of expected after seeing him perform in the Team League. But SonGDuri didn't see too many games,
yeah.
But that's his chance to actually prove that he's not one of those guys who just is able to get into the Challenger League, but that he is destined for more.
Yeah, the up and downs really is just a crazy arena of so many players put together. You don't even know who you're going to face at the end of the day because it depends on how the group turns out, whether or not you play against certain players. So you're going to prepare against the ones you know you're playing against first, absolutely a little bit more. It's crazy just to think that also sometimes if you lose twice, you're not even in control of whether or not you get out of the group. You have to hope for certain ways, people to win in certain ways.
Yeah. Today our starting match is a Terran versus Zerg. YoDa has to go up against SonGDuri, and we talked a lot about YoDa's Terran versus Zerg against Zubu. He looked dominant, took them all out. But in general, before that match happened, he had a very shaky record against Zerg. So for YoDa, it's always one of these hit or miss things. If you haven't won one of those on days where he is good at this matchup, he can take down anyone. It doesn't matter which Zerg he's facing, he can beat them all. But on the other hand, if he is once again a little bit nervous and maybe not as stable in that matchup as we've seen on that particular day that we mentioned earlier, then SonGDuri might just be able to just steamroll YoDa here. So very interesting to see what kind of shape we're going to see out of YoDa today. With SonGDuri, on the other hand, we don't know too much, but what we know is that we are jumping into map number 1 of the day. These are all best of ones, and this is the match on Whirlwind between YoDa and SonGDuri, our first Terran versus Zerg of the day. Jumping into the match right now here at the WCS Challenger League, the up and downs with Carl on Wall. Starting to the bottom right of the map, we have the Terran player. For LGIM in red, it is
LGIM YoDa.
YoDa going up against the Zerg player today. To the top right, we have in blue for CJ Antus.
CJ Entus SonGDuri.
Now, YoDa, his opponent, kind of one of those inconsistent players. We talked about this a lot earlier. He's definitely somebody who can have a great day or a terrible day, as we've seen in the past. So, really looking forward to seeing what he's going to show us today, because when he is on his on day, he looks unstoppable. He's always able to get those 3-3 upgrades out really, really quickly, and his mid to late game is impeccable if he can survive long enough.
Yeah, the thing that's definitely true about YoDa is that he was a little bit shaky against Zerg at first. Right now, if you look at his statistics, he is in a position where he has a 58% win ratio in this matchup offline, 14 wins and 10 losses. But most of those losses were actually all the way back in the past. So it seems that he figured out the Terran versus Zerg a little bit more just recently. And SonGDuri, he's one of those opponents where you don't really know what to expect. Yes, 8 maps played against against Terran, of course. And he was able to win his last 2 best-of-3s with the 2-0 each. He took down Hope and he took down SC. But before that, he lost to Light and Ganzi. So, not a lot to go on. But SonGDuri definitely one of those opponents where you're also questioning what exactly he's going to do. Will he play aggressive? Is he going for one of those roach Baneling attacks? Will we see him with a Ling Leader Baneling composition in the late game? And what we actually see from him here is a quite early gas. So he wants to get that stim out early enough. He doesn't rely on this very mineral and queen heavy defense.
Yeah, he wants to get that speed out as soon as possible here. Definitely so. And he plays a build that's very greedy, but on Whirlwind it's a very normal build. And look at that, he actually allows the drone. Well, no, the drone wants to go for the SCV instead. He sees this easy first. There's not much reason for the drone to get in the main base, really. He's just going to continue to poke on the outside here, and he can actually use the wall against YoDa if that SCV doesn't move properly. And oh no, it moves the wrong direction. He kills it. And now he gets in.
And he gets in as well, so that is actually a little bit unfortunate here. YoDa doesn't want to go the... SonGDuri.
He could lose a second.
Go all the way with that. Yeah, he needs to stop building and then just shift it back so that the shift-in pattern comes into play. But he just switches the SCV out to get the SCV into the mineral line so that he can repair it. Or definitely not really the opening. He doesn't take you back all that much. Oops, but that's only true if you lose one SCV, and even that is already a little bit annoying.
Oh, he loses 2. Oh my god, Keller. And this is the kind of thing that might get into YoDa's head and might give him an off day. He's also got 2 idle workers there, losing a little bit of time.
Yeah.
This definitely could affect YoDa's mindset going into this game. You never want to lose even a single SCV, but 2, that's unheard of.
Yeah, if you lose 1 SCV, that's one of the things that you just can't live with. Of course, it's annoying, it costs you a little bit, but it's more of a psychological thing than anything else. But if you lose 2, that's suddenly starting to become a completely different story. So YoDa here, very sloppy in the early game with this micro, and SonGDuri, I mean, from him, that was actually like amazing. He went for that, and he really thought that he could get the second SCV and risk a little bit, and it was rewarded. He takes down 2 of the Harvesters in the early game. Great start into this match.
Yeah, just really better micro by him at the end of the day. There's always a little bit of randomness with that SCV, but YoDa definitely could have stopped building earlier and been a little bit safer with that. His factory is completed, and this is something that SonGDuri has already scouted with his drone. He knows that there was a gas very much earlier, and I think he even saw the factory. He can assume it's there regardless. He did see it. And, he's very comfortable now because he has his Zergling speed out so early.
Exactly. With the early Zergling speed out on the game, you're very well set up against the Hellions that your opponent is just bound to get into the picture. And of course, you also get the scouting information that you really want to have. We're not going to see like too much aggression out of SonGDuri at the opening just yet. He's already droning up and he pulled out of gas. But that early speed is just It puts it in a very comfortable position, especially after this opening. And the Speedlings trying to have a quick look. They run in, and oh, there is no completed wall at the top either. So right now the SCVs are being attacked. The Marines have to be pulled. He needs to wait for those Hellions.
He needs to wait for those Hellions. You know, SonGDuri could have even tried to go on the main. He just said there's no complete wall, but he knows the Hellions are coming, so he's just going to try to get what damage he can done here at the natural. And he will actually get one of these Hellions, it looks like. Nice micro by YoDa, saving it narrowly there. Very nicely done.
Yeah, I'm actually a little bit surprised that we do not see that one SCV taken out by SonGDuri. He had the chance to do that. But in general, that was just a crazy opening by him, denying so much mining time, taking down the mule. That was so well worth it. It was just a few minerals that he invested here, and it paid off.
Yeah.
I did not expect him to be this aggressive, but it's a really good move by him.
It certainly was. And, you know, YoDa right now is going to also be up against Roaches. And it looks like he's going to go ahead and add his starport here. But the Roach push that could come out next, he might just make a few Roaches defensively, but with the 04 words making right now, I don't think so. I think he's going to make as many Roaches as he can afford.
Keep in mind that we do not have a lair tech yet, and he has Roaches. He will build quite a few of those, and that's not only to just fend those Hellions off. I don't think that he would have built 6 in that, but let's just wait a little bit and have a look what he's doing. With the third base that he's building, he certainly has a follow-up. He's going up to 10 Roaches now, and that's a pretty cool poke that he has there. So YoDa might be in a lot more trouble, especially since the Banelingness is now coming on the board. This is SonGDuri opening things up with a bang. Things started well, double drone kill, and then with the Hellions with the Zerglings denying the mining time, but now he wants to go for a much heavier opponent.
He knows that YoDa is so strong in the late game. He studied his players a ton of games out there in Terran vs. Zerg to study of YoDa, and he knows if YoDa gets to 2-2 or 3-3, it's so hard to deal with him. Additional bunkers being added now. YoDa has scouted this with the Watchtower. He knows what's going on. He's panicking a little bit here, but he has to just keep his cool, get those bunkers up, get those Widow Mines out. He can't make siege tanks. His stim is almost done. He wants to buy time for that, but there's just too much DPS here, Calder. I'm not sure he can hold.
He needs those bunkers, and you know he might just be able to get those out. He's building 4 Marines at a time now, and stim will mainly complete, I feel. This is one of those things where you can definitely make it work, but he needs good Hellion hits against those Banelings. The problem is that he didn't put those SCVs to the bunker at first, so the first bunker is already down. The double bunker in the end helps, but he needs to complete that wall to take a few of those Baneling hits.
Here come those Banelings. The bunkers are completed, but there's no Widow Mines left. They're all on cooldown. The bunkers are bursted.
And he moves back with all of the Marines right now. The SCVs are trying to escape as well, but the Banelings already on the move, going up the ramp. He needs to lift that CC. He needs to control the choke point. More and more Banelings are actually detonating against the structures, and so far YoDa is doing a crazy job taking out the Banelings.
Yeah, YoDa's excellent micro here against the Banelings, but he's losing a lot of SCVs at the same time. Is it worth it here for SonGDuri? He's going to now lose all of his Roaches.
This is so going to be worth it.
And here come the Lings.
A crazy hold by YoDa. As long as he can defend against the Lings, and I think he will, this is an amazing position for him right now.
Yeah, takes out the last of the Roaches, and looking at workers right now, 32 to 52, 20 up for SonGDuri right now. YoDa has, yes, he has Medivacs, he does have Stim, but he doesn't have combat shields, he doesn't have eBay upgrades.
Well, one thing, I mean, YoDa with a really good hold here, only losing 16 SCVs while taking down all the Banelings, the Roaches, and the Zerglings. So for him, a really good position to be in. The one problem that he has is that he doesn't have the third CC. So he's down in Harvesters, which he can compensate for by dropping those mules. But it would be much better for him if you already had that third CC up, which would of course also mean that he would have had much fewer units to defend against this.
Yeah.
But as it is, he's moving out, and keep in mind that we don't have any like real tech dimension for SonGDuri just yet. He's now heading into lair, but that's quite late.
Yeah, extremely late here. Some mutas are not coming on the table for a really long time. He's going to have to deal with this drop. Widow Mine here does not seem to be spotted. Needs to pull those drones. He selects and pulls them away at the last second there.
Yeah, he could have done a little bit more with the Widow Mine if he just would have borrowed it a little bit earlier. But we have now Medivacs everywhere on the map, and YoDa has decided that it is time to show us his impeccable drop play, and that's exactly what we're seeing right here. SonGDuri really trying to fend this off, but I don't want to say that he's looking shaky in any means at this point, but without anything against the Widow Mine, it might be so much harder than a natural.
He doesn't have detection. Of course, that Spore Caller nearly done.
Oh,
this is a bad idea. This is a bad idea, SonGDuri. This is a bad idea, SonGDuri.
Oh, 14 kills already by that Widow Mine. That was not worth it.
He gets the Widow Mine, of course, but definitely not worth it. That shot was actually good for SonGDuri. Hit mostly Marines, but this is the problem with having your lair so late. There's no Overseer, no Mutas to clean up the drop, so YoDa can literally ping-pong you around, just bouncing between the bases. The Zerglings alone, even though they're fast, they can't be in 6 places at once.
Hey, YoDa is now trying just to save those medivacs, but I really have to say that his hold was crazy good. The problem for SonGDuri was really he didn't really know what he wanted to do. He was trying to take down the SCVs, at the same time he was thinking about going up the ramp, and YoDa exploited that. He saw that the only chance that he had was trying to focus those Zerglings or put them into a choke point, and that's what happened. And then he sniped them one by one with great micros. So YoDa with crazy good play, now once again up in his opponent's face, and nice. Takes down a couple of those things, but at the same time kills that medevac.
Yeah, he loses his medevac, but not too full. Sees the Spire timing here with this drop, and is going to actually be able to go to the third base once again. And YoDa is just continuing to trade pretty cost efficiently here. May lose a Marauder, barely saves it. But YoDa's starting to take a great supply lead. He supply blocked his opponent. He is getting his upgrades up, a little bit behind, of course.
The worker supply, of course, for YoDa at this point is also quite decent. With 54 and still producing SCVs, he has a very good income here. The army supply is heavily in SonGDuri's favor, but this is just a composition that he can't make work right now. It gives him a little bit of map control, but the problem is that he has nothing to shut those drops down just yet.
Yeah.
He needs something.
You know, he wants to make Mutas here, but he can't afford them just yet. With all the Banelings, he has to morph. Now, good splits again here by YoDa. Excellent splits, in fact. And SonGDuri, he pushes it back, but he needs that gas for the Mutas.
And YoDa is just not stopping back at home. He's getting the double upgrades, and he's also going into Armory to activate the second set. The big problem for YoDa starts to be that SonGDuri has a very good macro game with his upgrade setup. So the upgrade lead for SonGDuri will give him a little bit of an edge. So YoDa should be a bit more careful maybe in the mid game and make sure that he doesn't overextend himself.
Yeah, that was very close. That could have done a lot of damage, that one Widow Mine. There are the Mutas. Finally, he gets a break. He gets the mineral bank he needed. Starts 12 Mutas here. He's going to have +1 for the Mutas. His Overlord speed almost ready to help his Overseers out. His 2-2's coming up here. And you know, the only thing that YoDa really has against SonGDuri is a very secure third base. But how long is that going to stay secure is the question. SonGDuri, I feel, if he wants to, after he puts on a little bit of aggression with his 2-2, could easily take a fourth base to the top of the map.
The thing is that I personally really like YoDa's choice here. He was very aggressive when he knew he could be, but now he's trying to take it a little bit more easy. As long as he can defend those 3 bases, he's gonna be fine. He did damage at the beginning of the game, he fended off his opponent's attack, and now he's on 3 bases. He knows that his opponent is on 3, even if SonGDuri takes a 4th right now. So YoDa is gonna be fine with this, because the 2-2 is now gonna finish, and SonGDuri does not go into an infestation pit just yet. So as long as YoDa can hold those 3 bases and get his 3-3 upgrades out and build up that army, he will just move out once that he has the army size and the upgrades, and then SonGDuri is in a lot of trouble and will be the defender once again.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And we'll see how much damage SonGDuri can do with these Mutas. Really great positioning already by YoDa. Not only with Widow Mines in his main base, but also he sent a drop back into the main base, starting a turret there. He's got these Marines right at the right angle here. And the Marines alone here, not enough, but he can send the rest of his units over. There's turrets.
Nice. That was a really great hit by the Widow Mine.
Sick bait there by YoDa, and now he's actually going to take out so many of these Mutas. But the rings are the bigger problem. Baneling's rolling in as well. Can YoDa actually micro against all this firepower?
Where's the rest of YoDa's army? Moving in right now with the Widow Mines, and the Marines already on the move, trying to force those Mutalisks back. A really nice and well set up attack by SonGDuri, but I just don't think that it was really worth it. He lost too many Mutalisks to make that an even trade.
Yeah, so many Mutas went down there, and those are the units that he needs for map control, and it costs him the most gas to replace. He does barely squeeze out that Devastation Pit, which means he will be able to start his high and get his 3-3. Cleans up a Viking here, but not before the Viking spotted this 4th base.
Yeah. 2-2 is also nearly done for YoDa, so even though we have the infestation bit a little bit faster for SonGDuri, a trend that a lot of Zerg players have been utilizing to just make sure that in the late game they still stand a chance against Terran. We will have the 3-3 much faster for YoDa than for SonGDuri, because SonGDuri has to get the hive tech up right now, and he is already starving for minerals. He needs that 4th base, that's why he's getting it. And YoDa, even with his sensor power, I really like his choices.
Yeah, he can already spot some of these units over here. He's running over. I don't think he expects this many though, and he doesn't split.
Yeah, he doesn't see it, and he's losing a lot. But also the Banelings going up against the Marauders, always a bad choice. Widow Mines being set up everywhere. That helps a bit against those Mutalisks, but the big problem right now is that SonGDuri is really trying to circle around the Marines, takes down a medevac. So very nice micro here. Banelings taken out, Mutalisks moving in. Where are those Baneling hits on the Widow Mine hits? They're coming in right now. And SonGDuri doesn't really want to overextend himself.
Yeah.
The rest of the Banelings alone.
You know, SonGDuri here just having that that group of units that punches through here at the natural, but will it actually be able to kill the SUs? It doesn't look like it. He basically just kills almost a depot and almost a refinery. Not a whole lot of damage done there. The bigger story, I feel, was at the third base where he attacked there.
I really have to say that I like how SonGDuri is setting up his attacks on the other hand. With better micro, yes, he could have done much more, but the fact alone that he is moving in at the natural and then he's attacking the third base, that is really well executed. He makes YoDa run from the left to the right, and the only thing that saves the Terran player here is really his impeccable multitasking. He spotted those units at the natural immediately and he pulled all of his SCVs away. If not for that, with a good Baneling hit, he could have taken out a lot of Harvesters. So both of them really just trying to make this macro and multitasking work in their attack.
Yeah. And right now, the Widowmine count is starting to get a little bit scary. He has 15 of those. Just only 7 Marauders in this mix this time. And SonGDuri is really making it this Ling-heavy style work. He has 122 Lings on the map right now, and they are always everywhere. He's going to go for a huge counterattack while he attacks those mules. He's drawing YoDa into different places, and YoDa, he's struggling to deal with this.
SonGDuri is trying to utilize his bigger army size. He's moving in with what he has, and the Marines are moving in once more against those Mutalisks. What YoDa could really need is the building armor here. Once again, calling down those those mules, and we have now the Marines moving in. 3-3 is on the way. Great Widowmine hits against the rest of the Zerglings.
But you know, SonGDuri, I feel like he lost too many mutas again. He's down now to only 7 mutalisks. That means he loses that control. But instead of remaking them, he makes 8 infestors right now. So he's going into infestors.
Well, and there's another problem with this wolf. I mean, the infestors, of course, are a great addition to the Banelings and Zerglings that he's utilizing quite a lot. You talked about the Zergling count already. But the 3-3 is once again delayed because of this investment.
You're absolutely right. And this is the Carapace upgrade that he's getting up for his mutas is going to be much less useful now. He doesn't really have very many of them on the field. Could be useful for Brewlords later. He needs to make sure he protects these mutas again, throwing them away here.
Oh my god, he's losing all of them because he's occupied in the middle of the map. What SonGDuri is, or what YoDa has this one problem at his third, he needs more missile turrets there, but all the Mutalisks are now gone. A great bundle. And then Banelings roll in and take down the rest of the army. But we already have YoDa in supply lead, and he is taking those 3-3 upgrades, and only the third melee attack upgrade is being started for SonGDuri. A fourth base about to be established for YoDa. The one saving grace for the Zerg player is really that he has a great creep spread in the map. He's taking another base to the top left, but I'm pretty much afraid for him that once the 3-3 upgrades hit for YoDa, the Terran player will move out and slowly but steadily take the map.
This is a really important engagement right here because this allows, if YoDa takes this, he'll get the momentum he needs with that 3-3 +1 attack, or +3 attack is already ahead for him right now. The infestors need to pull back.
Most of them are exposed with a good stim. He could start to hunt them down, and he takes the first one. He could kill another one. No scan. There it is. Kills the second infestor. Forces the creep back. Takes a couple of Banelings with him.
What an insanely crazy game we're watching right now. So back and forth. That 5th base for SonGDuri is up in the north. He hasn't started mining from it yet, but he can start that very soon. On the other hand, YoDa secured a 4th base. The worker count right now highly in favor of SonGDuri, but that means that when they max out, YoDa's going to have the stronger army.
Yeah, and another problem that we have currently for the Zerg player is that he doesn't have Ultralisk, Chitinous Plating, or 3-3. If he can get all of those, then yes, with the Infestors, he has a pretty good chance against the Bio army. But YoDa, he knows that this is his time to shine, and he's moving in. All those drones, they have no business there, like no business at all. Infestors going down, starting to use their bundles, missing them since YoDa micros quite well. The Widowmines are still in position. YoDa in a supply lead with an upgrade lead, and he is taking base after base now. SonGDuri, he needs more time.
He needs more time. He did eliminate all of those medevacs, though. Every single medevac that YoDa had died. So now he has an army that he's moving across the map with, but Fungals are going to be devastating if his infestors survive. He loses one here. He doesn't know how many Widowmines there are, and a few more drones getting caught yet again. This is really starting to take its toll on SonGDuri, who's now dropped down to 62 Harvesters.
I think that SonGDuri actually forgot the Chitinous Plating upgrade. He doesn't research it, and I don't think he forgot it. So he doesn't get that at all, and he needs that. Ultralisks are so much better if you get this upgrade. It's not all that expensive. And with the Ling count that he showed over the entire duration of the game, I would love him to get also Adrenal Glands. Yes, he's low in minerals, but those upgrades would really help him in the long run.
Yeah, these infestors are taking some serious Widowmine damage right now. One Queen goes to tank. The Overseer's coming in now, so he will finally be able to clean this up. But, well, will he?
Oh my god, more infestors going down. That switch for him is really something that is really good in the long run. Usually as a Zerg, you try to do a bit more damage with Ling, Muta, Baneling, but as we already mentioned earlier, his problem was really that the Mutalisk control. Oh, Oh, wait a second. There again, the Ultralists moving in, and actually this time there are not enough Bioforces. The lack of Medivacs that you pointed out, Wolf, is really coming through for the Zerg player now.
Yeah.
This gives YoDa a big problem here.
It looks like YoDa's actually going to have to back off for a little while and get all his forces together before he
Third
engages.
base is attacked. There is a Zergling run by the third base of the Terran player at the bottom right.
He's losing a lot of workers there. He's already actually lost every single harvester. There's 2 left, and they both die as I speak. And a good engagement here in the middle of the map. And SonGDuri, he lost the momentum for a while, but now he has his 3-3. He's really still missing that chitinous plating, but otherwise, he's really taking the momentum in this game. He also takes a supply lead now. If he can clean up this last army, not quite.
YoDa is moving in, taking down a couple of additional units. The supply lead in general now goes to the Zerg player, but the better army still for YoDa on the map. I feel if SonGDuri would get those upgrades that we talked about earlier, that would give him so much momentum here. Think about those Ultralists with additional armor and the Zerglings with adrenal glands. That would really give YoDa a huge problem to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely.
He has a lot of mining bases now though, and if he falls down a few additional mules instead of scanning ahead, then I think he has what it takes to out-produce his opponent.
Yeah. I could agree with you there. I mean, the worker count only at 36 for YoDa, but with all the mules he has, he still has a decent economy on all these bases he's got. Running in here with the Banelings, good splits by YoDa. Drones in the middle of the fight yet again. And YoDa types out, GG. He just doesn't have the economy to keep up with the Zerg's production anymore. You know,
I'm actually really surprised that he GG'd there.
That was a bit premature, I agree. I feel like he couldn't deal with the link count, maybe? I don't know.
I don't know why he GG'd. I mean, that was not a hopeless situation. He was not ahead by any means. But he had the bigger army supply at this point in time. He had good upgrades. There was no chitinous plating for the Ultralists. There was no adrenal glands. Those upgrades were missing, and that gives you an opportunity as a Terran player to win this. And YoDa was on 4 bases. Yes, he was running out of minerals in his main base and at the natural, but he still had mineral patches at the 3rd and at the 4th.
Yeah, I mean, I just looked at the graph, the in-game graph, talking about who had more army, and it was very close, but YoDa actually had more army at the end of that game. I think he underestimated his opponent, or overestimated his opponent, I guess is the better way to say this, and he thought maybe at the end of it he doesn't have the production to hold his base anymore. He lost a lot of workers, but
I don't know why he GG'd there. That was a game where you can fight your way back. We have seen much crazier comebacks than this. And we had a good economy for both of them. The only thing that YoDa really had to focus on was getting minerals out. He didn't even have to mine gas anymore because he had 1,000 gas bank. So I'm very surprised to see that GG. Especially since over like very long periods of the game, he seemed to be the dominant force here. So
maybe, you know, some stuff getting into YoDa's head again, but we'll find out. This is all, of course, best of 1, so he doesn't even have to play against that player again unless we go to a tiebreaker. So I guess he's just trying to clear his head and move on to the next player. Speaking of next players, our next matchup is going to be totally different. Protoss versus Zerg, Super up against Savage here on Akalon. Could be a great game.
Yeah, game number 1 was actually like quite interesting. We talked about that SonGDuri needs a little bit of time to head into the late game. That's what he got. But his Mutalisk control was really sloppy in that game. He lost so many at the 3rd base, and I think that he actually had a very good window where he could have pressured YoDa much more. And with those Mutalisks alive, he could have taken that game, I feel. But I really think that YoDa made a mistake deleting this. That was off.
Certainly odd,
but
sure.
As it is, I mean, the game's over, and we have the winner. It is SonGDuri in game number 1. YoDa is now down 1 game, and we are heading into our second best of 1 of the day. We have Super going up against Savage here, Protoss versus Zerg. Super with great performance in the past. Yeah. Let's see if he can take out Savage here. This is the starting game for both of them. Keep that in mind.
Yeah, Super, formerly known as Vampire, if you've been, you know, a little bit late on keeping up with Starcraft 2 these days, that's who he used to be. So he's got a lot of history, and just recently, especially in the GSTL, he has been on fire. A lot of people expected him to win his round in Code A in the Challenger League and go straight into the Premier League, but he's here in the up and downs. He has to prove himself yet again, and a big group of players.
Yeah, we are going into the first game. Akalon is going to be the map for our first match of the day. Looks a little bit like we have a problem here with the loading screen, at least. Maybe we have a drop. I don't quite know what's going on, but we are stuck in the loading screen for now.
It could be me who dropped because nobody's loading for me, and I suppose that's a likely possibility.
Might be the case.
I might actually just restart my client. Production will probably tell me what to do in a second regarding that, but
if we are really the problem here, we can of course just jump into Legends View and check that out on our screen here.
Yeah.
But
for now, I'll just wait, I guess. But Echo on a map where we've seen lots of late game with Stargate play, Tempest, you've got Swarm Host. That was kind of how things were mostly at the beginning of Heart of the Storm. We don't see that always anymore, but every now and then.
It's also the map where we sometimes see the double proxy gateway, which always looks a little bit funky and also a little bit silly when the Protoss player wins, because it just shouldn't happen, and most players by now really scout for that. It happens just so often, not only in WCS Korea, but we saw that time and time again also in WCS America. One of the games where that happened was when actually Oz was playing. So really interesting to see that every now and then, just mixes things up and makes it very, very exciting, but I don't think it's going to come into play.
It's not really super style. You know, if this were Pig Baby, I'd say, you know what, absolutely best of one. Definitely 2-gate proxy coming out here. Oh, I think somebody moved a little bit. I think Super moved a little bit on the progress bar. I think.
Now we have that sometimes when one of the observer drops and everyone is just set down. We have to wait until the observer times out and then the game starts. So that might be what's currently happening here. I guess we're going to find out in a
My eyes are tricking me. I look down, I think it moves, but it doesn't.
You have to actually just measure the progress bar to one of the letters in the
Yeah, that's what I do. That's what I do. You know, you guys ever do this when you're not sure if something's loading? You put your mouse on the end of it, and you go to the bathroom or something, you check, and if it's still where your mouse is, that's how you know that it didn't move. Or you look at one of the letters, you're like, if it goes past the O, I have to reconnect.
All right, okay, so apparently it is you.
It is me. It's my fault. I'm getting it.
But we didn't drop out yet, so we are still in the loading screen. Might be that the others already reconnected, so production just told us that we should reconnect to Starcraft, to the client, and find that out. And yeah,
I gotta type in like a really long, complicated password. Give me a second.
So we have now. I mean, we always have the same procedure when we're going into the up and downs. We have 3 games, 3 maps, and then we go into a short break. So we have now Super versus Savage for both of them. It is the first game today, and then the last best of one before we head into our first break will be YoDa versus Flying. For Flying, this is going to be his first game, and for YoDa, on the other hand, this is game 2. And since he's already 0-1 in the group, he really has to make an effort to take this game. Even if you lose 2, you can still get out of the group, but it leaves you in a very uncomfortable position.
You're no longer in control of your stats. If you're like, then you have to hope for 2 other players to do something specifically so that there can be a tie. You're no longer in control. No matter, even if you win the rest of your games, you might still lose the group. And now I'm back in the lobby, so I think we'll be starting again relatively soon.
The only concern that I really have with this is if you go into the 4th game or into the 5th and a player leaves the game a bit too early, that's one of those things where you can say like, okay, he had a very, very long day. The games that we saw so far were maybe a little bit shaky. Maybe he just got unlucky. Maybe it gets on his mind, whatever it is. But going into a best, like the up and down groups, and leaving a game this early is something where I actually have to ask myself, is YoDa today not really feeling it? Is he in a position where he's not confident in his abilities to take these games?
Every now and then you see a guy go like 0-4 and 0-5 in a group. One of these, this could be his day. If he's starting already like this and he loses 2 SCVs and then he just leaves the game too early, it could be his day to go 0-4, 0-5 and be last place.
I don't blame him for those SCVs at all. His defense against the Ling, the Baneling and Roach was great. It was really good. And then later on, he had a few phases in the game where he maybe have struggled a little bit with his defense. He could have built more missile turrets to defend against the Mutalisk. Maybe even the plating upgrade for the buildings would have helped him there. But he hit a really good stride. He took down so many of the Mutalisks. He killed those infestors. He did a really good job there. And then he suddenly leaves the game with still 2 mining bases and with max upgrades. The Zerg struggling against him, fighting back. But I hope that YoDa is not in one of those positions today where he just gives up too early. We are going now into the game that we announced earlier. Super versus Savage at the GSL Up and Downs. Carl and Wolf with our Protoss player.